Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Brian Heater. I am the managing editor of A3. I'm here with Jan Diekmann.
Hi, Brian.
Thank you for joining us. You are the technical account manager at Ericsson. What does a technical account manager do?
That's more my title, but I
Yeah.
work with Ericsson Private 5G within Ericsson Wireless Enterprise Solutions. And I'm looking after manufacturers and their opportunities together with 5G or private 5G, which is one of the Ericsson enterprise products. And yeah, and I'm so happy to be here and talk about it today.
Great. Yeah. So you're kind of an ambassador for 5G. Is that fair?
Right. I'm what we call a vertical expert.
Yeah.
Looking at manufacturing and adjacent warehousing and logistics.
I imagine your job was more difficult a few years ago when it came to actually convincing people that this is something they need. Is this just kind of a given at this point in 2025?
It is, in a way, much better than it was a couple of years before. But I must say that, of course, not every industry is at the same level when it comes to the adoption of that 5G or private 5G technology. But you're right. When I look back at Hanover a few weeks ago, I did basically not have a discussion, shall I go for 5G or shall I go for Wi-Fi? I think people have sort of accepted that it can be coexisting technologies. But more the question is my operation in need of the capabilities of 5G? That's questions we get. And if I decide to go for that, down that route, how do I do it? That's more the topic of discussion or the theme of the discussions we're having now.
So Wi-Fi kind of supplementing 5G to a certain extent. What role does the Wi-Fi play in that process?
I mean, Wi-Fi, of course, is an established technology with a wide footprint.
So is 5G.
So is 5G, but not as wide as the Wi-Fi today. And I think Wi-Fi also has its advantages because it's a huge portion of spectrum. It has fantastic throughput capabilities if there isn't too many devices in the game. And it's unfortunately not very predictable and therefore not usable for some parts of the industrial communication. So I think Wi-Fi is a good complement to offload 5G and let 5G do really the important parts of your production in terms of communication. 5G, of course, can, with its differentiated quality of service, cater for a huge range of different needs of applications. But as many manufacturers have already Wi-Fi in play today, I would say, take it as a compliment, but Wi-Fi can't do what 5G can't do.
When you talk about reliability in the context of Wi-Fi, that's like downtime, throughput, things like that?
It's mainly reliable and predictable throughput. It's predictable latencies, and it's simply not as robust as the 5G is today because Wi-Fi runs on unlicensed spectrum. So there is a probability of getting disturbances, right, from other Wi-Fi users. Everybody can use that spectrum as they wish. In 5G, you have licensed spectrum. That means you have that portion of spectrum for your own use. It's assigned to you for a confined area, maybe. And you can rely on having these resources available at any point in time.
So you said earlier that, I mean, this is obvious, but that some industries are ahead of other industries when it comes to adoption. Who's kind of at the bleeding edge when it comes to adopting?
I think the manufacturing industry, of course, was the first ones to adopt. They were also the spearhead of that Industry 4.0 paradigm, right? And they have been being early means also going through some difficulties as the technology develops. And I think manufacturing is still the industry with the highest adaptation level. But we also see now, for instance, mining coming up, really, ports, everything where you have a very difficult environment with large outdoor spaces, lots of metal, etc.
Places you don't want to necessarily send humans into.
Exactly, but also the propagation capabilities of 5G are much, much better. You can't use Wi-Fi in an outdoor port for your communication.
Underground, the 5G network. And that's, I assume that in that case, that's a private network we're talking about?
Yeah, mainly we're talking about private networks here, because what we see is that industries, especially manufacturing, wants to be the master of their data. It doesn't mean they keep all their data on site, but they want to determine how and where to put it to be for further processing or for any other cloud services you might want to employ.
Are there some of these factories or warehouses that are utilizing the public network, or is everybody kind of on their own private at this point?
For manufacturing facilities, I mainly see them using private networks because it's designed for the purpose. The radio coverage is really made for the specific needs of that environment and that production and the use cases they are employing. Of course, there are some corner cases where already today they use slices of the public network for critical operations. But of course, many use, for instance, today as a legacy 4G for connecting classical IoT stuff. And that can come from a public network.
I assume that when you talk to a corporation, the conversation is a little bit easier because they have the resources, right, and the infrastructure to set up something like this. Generally, when you talk to like small or medium business, is it more difficult to convince them that they need their own private network?
Yeah, of course. As for every other new technology introduction, smaller business and smaller industries have a much higher hurdle to introduce. They don't have the staff. They maybe don't have the free capacity to do changes towards new technologies. And also, as of today, there is a larger advantage from mid-size to large-size factory plants utilizing 5G than there is sometimes for smaller plants. But it's just a question of the flavor they're using. For instance, smaller plants can go for different other solutions, also employing 5G technology, but not necessarily immediately for a private 5G network.
In terms of security, right? I mean, I would assume that that's part of the reason why people are looking at Wi-Fi, but you're obviously getting a lot more security on a private network than you are just hopping on some large carrier.
Well, I think the carrier networks are secure as well, but they don't cover for industrial security, and that's the point. Mm-hmm. Private 5G networks are not only using the inbuilt security within 5G coming from the standard, but they also build in the industrial security requirements into the part of the network. And that's spot on what you're saying. Industries want to go these networks that are crucial for their production and can immediately cause hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss in a few minutes of downtime. Or through a cyber attack, they want to undergo these networks their own assessments, and that's where private 5G networks give a much more tangible, confined, and controllable environment than public networks do, I would say.
Everybody's talking about AI. Obviously, they have for the last several years. Now people are really talking about it in the manufacturing and industrial context. Is this interest in AI pushing more people towards setting up their own private networks?
AI and 5G are a perfect complement. I mean, you can say, of course, AI works with 5G, 5G works without AI, but the two together is a 1 + 1 makes 3, really, because with 5G, you can feed your models with much better high-quality data that you can easily acquire, rather than pulling new cables, building new infrastructures for acquisition of machine data, for instance. And that's a perfect complement to the rapidly, fastly growing AI landscape, getting the right data available and making the best use of the models developed, pushing them down to the far edge.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're still, for the most part, talking about really massive models. So a lot of that has to happen off device anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has robotics also been a big driver for you?
Robotics in all of their flavors have been a driver. Like, think about the move from AGV to AMR. Like, AMRs are mobile, so they benefit from the mobility aspect in 5G. They can benefit from the massive amount of data that AMRs can bring up to the cloud to act in sort of a swarm intelligence, finding always the best path, doing constant 2D, 3D map updates, calculating the SLAM centrally, etc. Here, 5G and AI are playing a perfect role together with robotics. And I think these technologies will accelerate each other over time.
Yeah, increasingly drones are becoming a part of that conversation as well.
Yeah. I mean, drones have always been sort of the flagship of innovation, if you wish. But we now see really drones getting into real commercial operation. At our booth, for instance, we're showing a solution from Cypher Robotics, which is an AMR with a drone for cycle counting. And that combination of drone and AMR, together with offloading their data through the 5G network, is really a great example for robotics and drones playing together with 5G.
So inventory tracking seems like a pretty big
It is, the cycle counting, inventory tracking. Empty pallet, empty box detection, whatever you wish. It can also be, the data can also be used real time to feed and create your digital twin.
Yeah. And actually, like real-time health monitoring of the systems is a big aspect as well.
Sorry?
Health monitoring, data monitoring, like seeing what the machines are doing in real time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is like one of the, I would say, major basic use cases for 5G is real-time monitoring of equipment, of the environment, of everything that plays a role within your production can now easily be connected with a density and a cost that was not possible before.
Yeah, obviously, if I'm running a factory or a warehouse, I want the solution to be as brownfield as possible, right? I want to, continue to have everything up and operating while you're installing these. So how quickly can you get a private network installed in one of these spaces?
That's a great question. The private network can be installed in, I wouldn't say no time, but it can be done really fast. The only thing that you really need to take care of is to have the right radio planning as for every other radio technology. Once that in place, you can go for installation. And for instance, with the Ericsson solution, you can have the system as such up and running within a day or a couple of days. And then you can start with the least intrusive cases to augment and add to your brownfield operation and do a gradual move over onto new or move existing use cases onto the 5G. We see car manufacturers that decide to get more agile and to become more flexible and now gradually moving their already cabled environment onto a more flexible concept together with 5G.
Jan, we're out of time, unfortunately, but the good news is that you have a panel coming up tomorrow at 11:30.
Right.
You're going to continue this conversation?
Absolutely. It will be giving examples for a lot of things we talked about today. And I'm looking really forward to see a lot of audience there getting interesting questions and having great discussions on stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.